welcome back, everybody, to the Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we discuss the movie Heartbreak Ridge, 1 minute at a time. I am your co-host, Brian Lockhart, and with me is my other co-host.
Yeah, I am Jack Perry.
Well, welcome back, Jack. And today we're talking about minute 3 of Heartbreak Ridge, where the minute begins with the credit for Ramon Franco still up on the screen, while some soldiers are charging up a hill, and it ends with some wounded being carried on stretchers. Once again, we're back in Korea during the Korean conflict. We got some more footage, and it's just life as a soldier. And honestly, so as the minute it goes on, the Don Gibson Sea of Heartbreak kind of kicks in and really predominantly plays over the footage of the Korean War, which as a kid I was not a country fan. I'm a country fan now for sure. This song really kind of grew on me, and I really grew to like it. And of course, it's because of this movie.
And I'm still not a country fan.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
But it's funny because as I'm watching it, it's just soldiers kind of, you're starting to see more of why I guess you would call Heartbreak Ridge. Like why, like these soldiers they look tired, they look famished. They're sitting there stirring their soup, or with a bayonet. Just showing got dead bodies, people dead in jeeps, guys wounded walking around, guys on stretchers.
He's running right past the guy with the camera, by the way.
Yeah, right. Well, they probably told him to do it again.
Yeah.
Back then, they're probably like, no, we need you to walk back, walk differently, do it again. Guys humping, guys marching, they look like they've been through hell. That song playing over it just kind of makes sense. It's like a music video for a sad country song, which is actually a very catchy tune. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like fun by any means. In fact, seeing the stretchers and seeing the wounded, it does remind me of M.A.S.H. without any of the jokes.
Yeah. Well, it's all black and white too, so M.A.S.H. had the benefit of being in color, so there's that.
It had Alan Alda, so
yeah,
I don't know what that means, but
yeah, I mean, I want to be a villain in like one thing. I don't even remember what that one thing was.
Probably Canadian bacon.
Yeah.
I won't be discussing that movie anytime soon. So, I don't really have much to say about the song other than I like it, and it's I'm sure it's actually been redone a few times, but I believe Don Gibson did this one. You were mentioning offline that you kind of thought that as the footage went on that it seemed like it could have been from even Vietnam.
Yeah, so as we were watching the footage, and we have the wounded guy going down the hill, and the music kind of changes. I thought they were shifting from a more militaristic, the Korean conflict and whatever, and they were shifting to what you would expect from any like Vietnam era movie where you get like credence going on, but this was not doing that. It was just doing something different, tying into the name of the film. Sea of Heartbreak or what have you, and you see all the other stuff that's going on. It seems a little bit more. It seems a little bit more Vietnamish with less jungle, but more open area. I guess there's some debate as to whether or not that's the case, but just the tempo of the music, to me, it just seems like it just shifted from one era. So I guess looking back now, and you look at all the way the movie started, right? You've got the militaristic drum beats, Korean War footage, the tank coming through, and then you've got the fade into what I suspect may be Vietnam with the change of the music. It's the change of the era. And as the movie goes on, which I'm pretty sure if you're watching this podcast, you probably have seen the movie. And if you haven't, do yourself a favor and find it. But you throw it on there and you see that the way the movie fades from one era to another, and then it goes from black and white to color, right? So see the
it does eventually. Not in this minute, but it does. It will go into color eventually. You're right.
Yeah. So to me, it just says that he's just going through. Potentially you're seeing a lot of the war through Tom Highway's eyes. Like he's the guy in the camera and he's watching these events transpire. If that's the case, but I don't even know what footage we're seeing now is actually Vietnam or if it is still Korea. It's interesting.
Yeah, if I had to
guess, I can really say that pinpoints it. It doesn't look overly jungled. I just see more trees and hills, and there's things that we would typically see in a Vietnam era movie. GIs moving through a village, people looking at them. GIs looking through trees. Just those kind of normal things that you would expect to see in a Vietnam era movie, and just with the movie go or I'm sorry, the music, the change in the music just kind of seems like it's just kind of following his experiences without being obvious about it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because if only we could have, I was joking earlier about not being able to do research on this, footage, but it's unfortunate that I really couldn't find anything about it because it would be interesting to know, for sure. I mean, for me, I would say this is all Korea, but I can see where you're going with this because Tom Highway, Gunny Highway, he was in Korea, he was in Vietnam. They talk about this in the movie. And as his wife said, he volunteered for every goddamn war that happened in between that, so that could make sense. And I also see what you mean by with the tonal shift of the drum beat, the marching drum beat now goes into a actual song. And we see that all the time with Vietnam movies. I think the one giveaway that this is probably not Vietnam is the
Yeah.
fact that they didn't use CCR.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Quagmire said it best where he's like, you haven't heard the songs that I've heard, man. When he was over in Vietnam, he's like they incessantly played Fortunate Son on everything they did. So
Yeah.
that would be that's the biggest giveaway. There's no CCR, it's got to be Korea. But I see what you're saying, like Wolverine Origins. The best part of that movie is the opening credits where they show him and Sabertooth going through all the wars,
Yeah.
and you can see how Tom Highway was basically
Yeah.
going through all the wars. So wouldn't that be awesome if you saw Clint Eastwood with Hugh Jackman and
Fighting through
boy that
World War
plays the
II, World War One, the American Revolution. Find out Tom Highway is now a mutant.
yeah, the funny thing too is, you see Wolverine getting all like he's losing, he's losing the will to fight. He doesn't like all the killing, and Sabretooth's getting off on it, and him and there's Tom Highway right next to him also getting off on it, killing
Yeah.
everything, and so I want to see
Wolverine
that movie
pissed.
actually. But and also there's like it keeps cycling through. There are a few shots that remind you of footage you would have seen either in a Vietnam movie or footage from Vietnam. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like I said, I think we'll never know. There's just no way to know.
Yeah. Too, when you look like historically with how things were presented, Vietnam got a lot of. It was never technically a war, right? So it got a lot of press from just people being like, "Yeah, no, I'm burning my draft card. I'm doing this, or no, I'm doing that." So when you think too that,
Well, if you want to get technical, we haven't had an actual official war since World War II. But
no,
nobody would argue that these aren't full on wars. I mean,
right?
we even the war on terror, Desert Storm. I guess well they call it Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. But then they now it's referred to as the first Iraq War. But even the second Iraq War, the war in Afghanistan, obviously the Vietnam War, they call it the Vietnam War, even though war was never declared. They call it the Korean War, but a lot of times it's called the Korean conflict, because that again wasn't a war. That was actually, the interesting thing about Korea was that was actually a UN.
Yeah,
Although, let's be honest, it was led mostly by the U.S.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
and the only reason the UN even kind of went along with it is because I believe the Soviet Union was boycotting the UN at the time, so they weren't there to stop the UN from committing troops and trying to intervene in Korea.
right.
Which again was all part of the whole issues with the Cold War and stop, wanting to be tough on communism.
Proxy
You know,
wars.
right, and the fallout from the way Korea was divided at the end of World War II. And really, the reason this is kind of a forgotten war is because people had just come out of a world war and they were just sick of it. I
Yeah,
don't think they didn't have the public support. There wasn't a lot of. I mean, obviously, people. I'm not an expert, but I believe the idea was you got to be tough on communism. You got to stop the spread of it wherever it goes. As soon as it spreads, it's going to keep spreading more and more. So you got to stop it before it gets there. And people just didn't want to deal with that at the time, which again, carried over into Vietnam. The same idea.
Yeah, and I think too, the Americans, there's a lot of people, man. We see ourselves in a different light. We engage ourselves probably in places that we probably shouldn't be, but we do it because we feel that's the right thing to do as a culture, right? Now, the legitimate reasons may not be those specific reasons, but the actual reasons why the people that get involved, like Bosnia and Herzegovina, or was the stuff that happened when we were in, right? Bosnia. Yeah. We wanted to get involved because, innocent people were getting hurt. We see ourselves as the good guys. Well, after World War II, I think the United States really started seeing itself as a world power and decided to jump in there and fight communism. And we got ourselves involved in every problem that popped up. So all these proxy wars, only people that were fighting that proxy war was the United States. We jumped in there and we fought our side of that in that proxy war. And then the communists fought their side. And, we got Korea and China. You had the communists in Vietnam. You had all those things that we engaged ourselves in. Cuba, fighting communism, no matter where it popped up. We stuck ourselves in there to fight it.
And even this movie will show you with Grenada, that was another. There was a couple different reasons why the Marines go into Grenada. And that happened in the early 80s. And again, they point out in this movie there was communists there, and that it was an attempt to once again thwart them. It also, kind of looking at the timing, Grenada happened. True, Cold War movie, Cold War mentality in stopping communism. When I was looking back at this, I didn't realize the timing of the launch into Grenada was right after the Beirut barracks bombing. Of the Marine Corps, where 200 and some odd Marines died while they were
283,
sleeping.
I think.
And that was devastating. We had to leave there. Shortly after, troops were committed to Grenada. Again, probably the right thing to do at the time. But you also have to look at the we talk about the communism aspect, stopping the spread of it. But at the same time, it's also probably America could have used a win right about then.
Yeah.
Something real bad just happened, and it's kind of like, all right, let's get back on the horse and we need a win.
Get in somebody's ass, anybody.
Yeah, kind of. So, I mean, I'm sure that was a thought behind it. Again, I'm not a policy expert, nor am I an expert on pretty much anything. But here I'm looking at this minute 3 of a movie, of footage we know nothing about, and somehow we talk 20 minutes about it.
Hey, man. That's the point, right? You tear this onion apart.
Now, if I could finish one other thought, to circle back, they were showing all the, just how the soldiers look injured. There's a lot of injured guys. It does remind me of M.A.S.H. Obviously M.A.S.H. was set during the Korean War. It was a very popular TV show. The movie was fine. I liked the movie. In fact, I'm pretty sure somebody did a M.A.S.H. movie minute. I'm pretty sure it's out there, so everybody go take a listen to that. I liked the TV show, but it was one of those things where my parents liked the TV show. It's either like it or sit there and suffer in silence.
Yeah, I remember watching M.A.S.H. with my mom. She was like, "Hey, you want to watch M.A.S.H.?" And I was grounded a lot as a child because I was a poor child. I was grounded a lot. So yeah, if I had an opportunity to watch anything, and I would watch M.A.S.H. And M.A.S.H. it had charm to it. As you watch it, you realize the context. It's the war TV show, and there was some really dark things that happened where they had North Korean soldiers that would show up and they would have to try and save them. And it was pretty dark sometimes, but it was also very entertaining. It was a good show, and it lasted forever.
Yeah, I forget how long, but it was like 10 years or more.
It was based off of a movie, it's a football game and all that stuff. It was like, oh, it was great.
Right. And well, what's funny about that too is, so the war only lasted 3 years. The TV show lasted 10?
Yeah. If that, it was usually almost longer than that.
And then they did After M.A.S.H. Now it's funny because I was looking at one of the episodes, not actually watching it, I was reading a little bit about it, and I specifically remember this episode where they literally did a full year of the war in one episode. So,
Yeah.
so one episode covered a whole year. So I don't know, the timeline on that show is way off.
Yeah,
But
George Takei was on one of the episodes, wasn't he?
yeah, and I think so was the guy that did G.I. Joe. He did all the comic books for G.I. Joe, did all the character profiles.
Oh man.
You know what? I'm going to look it up real quick because it's driving me nuts. And I met him.
Yeah. Thing too for the people that listen to the podcast is like if you've never really watched M.A.S.H, like if you're one of the younger folks and you're getting engaged in like newer things, go back and check out M.A.S.H. Start watching M.A.S.H. As far as shows to stream and you want to watch those things, it's an incredible show. It'll teach you a lot, but it's very irreverent. The movie itself had Donald Sutherland. Who else was in that movie? There's a lot of people in that damn movie.
Sorry, real quick. Larry Hama. That's who I'm thinking of, and I should have known that. What the hell is his name? Great. Now I'm totally blank on it.
Was he in M.A.S.H. the movie?
Yes, he was, and so was Robert Duvall. He was Frank.
Yeah. There was a lot of people in the M.A.S.H. movie. It came out way before the TV series came out.
Yeah, and what's her name's in it? The teacher from Back to School.
Yeah. Oh, see,
she was Hot Lips Houlihan.
Folks, y'all are gonna wrap this stuff around back to school. Guess what? You got another homework project.
But I never knew watching the show because again I was a kid. I would watch a show that Hot Lips Houlihan. I didn't know. I just thought it was because they thought she was hot.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a line from the movie. Kiss my hot lips or whatever she was saying. And of course, I saw that when I was older, and I'm like, hey, that's the teacher from Back to School.
It was supposed to be the same characters, yeah. And then they also had a spinoff from M.A.S.H. that ended up being one of the characters going back to the United States and becoming a real proper doctor.
Yeah, it was
wasn't Hawkeye, it was Trevor John.
Trevor John, MD. That's right.
Yeah.
And it was a totally different actor, but it was Trevor John. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was the way the movie was portrayed was it was very irreverent.
Yeah, it was funny. Sorry, speaking of M.A.S.H, I kept coming across some stuff about Colonel Potter and Heartbreak Ridge, and saying, "Oh, Heartbreak Ridge, was, I think it was in 1952, and it was like a month-long battle." And they were like, Potter didn't show up till after that, or maybe it was 51 actually, but Potter didn't show up till 52, and it was just funny because they're like, in my mind, based on what I read, Colonel Potter fought with Gunny Highway on Heartbreak Ridge. He probably patched up all the wounded.
That is awesome. If we could make a way to tie these universes together.
I think we've already tied a few things together with Wolverine and Gunny Highway. Now Colonel Potter's with them. I'm pretty sure we're going to have an Avengers style army when we're all said and done.
Oh, dude, that would be the raddest. We'll figure out how to... Yes. We're going to write our own movie. Heartbreak Ridge 2, The Revenge.
Electric Boogaloo. Clint Eastwood could probably still play Tom Highway. He practically did in... what's the one where he's the old man and he's a Korean War? He's
Gran Torino. That movie is incredible. It's a really... I don't know why I didn't spit that out as one of my in episode 2, by the way. Go back and listen if you haven't. Call out our...
Yeah, I forgot about it too, but that's an awesome movie as well.
I didn't forget about it, but it was one of those. It was just a good movie, but it wasn't one of those that you like immediately think of an incredibly good favorite Clint Eastwood movie. Boom, go for it.
Surprised you didn't say Bronco Billy.
I don't think I've ever seen Bronco Billy.
You're not missing anything, but it's fine.
Okay.
But I do own it, so we can
you know what? I'm not surprised.
Hey, Walmart for like $4, you can get all the DVD Clint Eastwood DVDs you want.
Yeah. Were they selling you a clamp case of DVD movies? You can buy all you want for $5 in the little bin in the middle of the aisle.
Basically, and they got Bronco Billy in there.
There you go.
All right, well, I think we've talked about all we can about this minute of footage we know nothing about. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll end minute 3, and we'll come back tomorrow or the next time, and we'll do minute 4 and see where we go from there.
Right
All right,
on.
Jack. I appreciate you joining me yet again to discuss one of my favorite movies. I think we've talked about all we can. I hope you come back tomorrow and enjoy me.
Brother, I'm here with you all the time.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will talk to everybody next time on minute 4.